Greetings, young squires. This is Sir Rolland, a faithful knight to the one true light, and you're listening to our series on how to face, fight, and defeat the 7 deadly dragons. Today we turn our attention to the last of the 7 deadly dragons, the Violet Dragon. But as always, before I tell you the game plan of this dragon, I must first tell you the goodness and beauty and truth that its color represents. Only then can we understand what the Violet Dragon is trying to corrupt. Violet is the last color on the visible light spectrum because it is a selfless color that puts others first. Violet is a liturgical color in the Catholic Church and symbolizes self-sacrifice. The priest wears violet vestments during Advent and Lent, which are times of preparation and penance. During Advent, we prepare for the coming of Christ the bridegroom, just as a bride prepares for her wedding day. Advent is one of my favorite times of the year as we anticipate the coming of the Savior. During Lent, we reorient our lives to the love of Christ by increasing our prayer, almsgiving, and fasting. Violet has a purple hue, reminding us that we are royalty, as adopted sons and daughters in the family of God. The color violet reminds us that Christian royalty is not about being served. It's about serving others, taking care of orphans and widows, and leading armies into battle against the enemy. Violet is an emotional color, but at the same time controls emotion with truth and logic. It has a hue of blue and a hue of pink, which we often associate with boys and girls. So violet can symbolize the complementarity of men and women, and it's a color often associated with love. It is a very attractive color. When all that is good and true and beautiful about the color violet is corrupted, it turns into something evil, false, and ugly, and that, my friends, is the Violet Dragon. Like the red dragon of pride, this dragon seeks not to serve, but to be served. The selfishness of this dragon does not help orphans and widows, but often causes them by destroying families. It causes children to grow up without moms and dads who love them, and it alienates husbands and wives. It breaks families apart, causes suffering, and then convinces us to try to prevent suffering by taking innocent human life. Like the orange dragon of envy, this dragon seeks what others have. It seeks to convince us that what God gave us isn't good enough, and we must take from others who are more attractive or talented than we perceive ourselves to be because of this dragon's lies. The dragon confuses us and makes men forget the greatness of the call to Christian masculinity and makes women forget the feminine genius, and so destroys the complementarity of men and women. Like the yellow dragon, this dragon seeks the path of least resistance. It cowers at the demands of love and lazily goes through motions and relationships or stops trying altogether. Like the green dragon, this dragon is greedy, but it covets something even more valuable than gold and silver. It seeks to steal the most sacred and valuable resource on the planet, the human person. It seeks to use other people for its own selfish desires instead of loving other people. Like the blue dragon of wrath, this dragon seeks to cause an enormous amount of pain and abuse by treating people as objects to be used and discarded. It feeds us the lie that love is a feeling or an attraction instead of a choice, which allows emotions to overwhelm us and erases all logic and truth from our thinking. That, in turn, causes us to make poor choices that hurt others and ourselves. Then it plants the seeds of unforgiveness to reign in the family and convinces us to hold grudges for past hurts, causing a ripple effect of divorce, separation, and hate. Like the indigo dragon of gluttony, this dragon worships pleasure and thinks of gaining nothing else, no matter what the consequences to ourselves or others. In a word, this dragon seeks to destroy your future vocation by working together with all the other dragons. God has a great mission for each and every one of you. He has a vocation or calling for how you will live your life. Some of you young knights will be called to be holy priests for a mighty God. You will offer your life as a sacrifice and will act in persona Christi, offering the sacrifice of the Mass every day and making God's life-giving sacraments available to all the people. Your bride will be the church, and you will dedicate your life to your spiritual children and saving souls for the kingdom of heaven. Some of you young maidens out there may be called to be religious sisters and dedicate your life to poverty, chastity, and obedience for your heavenly spouse. Some of you may be teachers and catechists of the faith, and some of you may be called to the holy vocation of marriage, where you will lay down your life for another person and become moms and dads entrusted to raise a new generation of dragon slayers to continue to grow the family of God. No matter what vocation God calls you to, it will be a life of service and self-sacrifice as you pick up your cross to follow Christ your Savior. But the Violet Dragon will do everything in its power to disorient you and stop you from living out your vocation in life. You must begin training to slay this dragon when you're very young, with the help of your mom and dad and Holy Mother Church. I will do my best to expose this dragon's lies and deceptions and traps so that you may succeed. But I must warn you, like with the other 6 dragons we have thus far mentioned, you will be wounded by this dragon in one way or another. The violet dragon seeks to destroy what is sacred, and therefore will attack the family unit. It will attack fathers and mothers. It will attack laity and religious alike, and it will most certainly place a target on the back of all God's holy priest. It will seek to profane the most holy Eucharist and remove the true image of love in the crucifix. It has successfully convinced much of our world that what is good is evil, and what is evil is good. I have decided to call this dragon Agabah, Agabah, which is a Hebrew word that means inordinate love. God is love and truth. Agabah is a plagiarizer. It distorts and mocks what God creates. And its deadly sin is called lust, which is a distortion and corruption of love. People were made to be loved and things were made to be used, but Agabah tries to convince you to love things and use people. Our world desperately needs a generation of dragon slayers who will stand up to this dragon running rampant in our present day and age. And so now I will give you the battle cry to the violet dragon. The violet dragon can be quite alluring, but its faithful commitment is never enduring. Facing this dragon in life's great arena was the virgin martyr named Saint Philomena. As the daughter of light, she persevered to the end. As the bridegroom of Christ, her resolve wouldn't bend. Her soul took flight to her Savior above. Her primary weapons were chastity and love. You too can be light and pure in your youth, and guard what is sacred with the belt of truth. My challenge for you this week is to study the battle cry. Pull out the 4 secret ingredients to slaying this dragon. Number 1, the color and sin of the dragon. Number 2, the legendary slayer to train us. Number 3, the virtue or weapon to slay the dragon. And number 4, the armor to protect us from the dragon. So stay holy, young slayers, and until we meet again, I'll leave you under the protection of St. Michael the Great Archangel, St. Joseph the Terror of Dragons, and Mary, Queen of the Angels, Our Lady of Grace, and the woman whose seed crushed the head of the dragon.